Hi, I'm Elena, and I'm the owner of Cinnamon LLC. This Black History Month, Pure Cinnamon wants to recognize those who have achieved great things or committed acts of bravery or self-sacrifice, yet has not been celebrated or recognized through our weekly series called Unsung Heroes of Black History. While schools feature Black history this month, most students will only hear about the same handful of prominent figures: Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., Harriet Tubman, and a few others. Such a limited view ignores the countless historical achievements of many Black men and women who faced enslavement, violence, and prejudice on their road to greatness. Today, for the first edition of Unsung Heroes of Black History, I would like to recognize my grandparents, Fletcher and Bobbie Harris, for their courage and determination in closing the back doors of a white-owned establishment in Ashdown, Arkansas. In 1970, my two oldest uncles and their cousins, who were all minors on my mother's side, walked into a restaurant in Ashdown, Arkansas called Mac's Cafe. After they had been waiting for a while, a waitress finally came over and told them that for them to be served, they had to go to the back of the restaurant because it was the restaurant's practice that blacks could not be seated and served in the front of the restaurant with everyone else. My uncles and their cousins just could not understand why they had to go to the back of the restaurant. They were going to pay their money just like everyone else. The game warden, who is a law enforcement agent who has the role of protecting wildlife, just so happened to be eating at that very same restaurant. He came over, he called them niggers, put his hand on his gun, and said, "If you don't do what the waitress said, I will blow your brains out." My uncles left the restaurant, went home, and told my grandparents, and of course, they were upset. My grandparents went to the sheriff's office to file a report because they were treated unfairly. While my grandparents were talking to the police, the game warden came in cursing and disrespecting them. And my grandfather informed him, "Hey, I need you to stop cussing in front of my wife because I would never cuss in front of yours." My grandparents left the police station with the mindset that they had to do something about this injustice. So they contacted the local NAACP. The NAACP provided them a lawyer for free, and my grandparents decided they wanted to file a lawsuit for racial discrimination against Mac Cafe. Once they filed the lawsuit, it came out in the local newspaper, and shortly after, the threats and violence started to occur. They were threatened over the phone several times that if they didn't drop the lawsuit, they would find my uncle's mother body in the Red River. They also received another call that said if they didn't drop the case, there would be some nigger kids floating in the Red River. It got so bad with the threats that my grandmother had to start carrying around a gun for protection everywhere that she went. Also, on another night, my family had seen a white man in a vehicle driving suspiciously in front of their house. Soon after, they heard two gunshots. The driver had shot in the front room of their house. After the shooting, my grandparents called the police and the sheriff said he was coming out. Before the sheriff could arrive, the surrounding town's family and friends had got wind of the shooting and set up camp around my grandparents' house. My family kind of had our own little militia that included Black war veterans that had served in the Vietnam War. They were all dressed in the military fatigue, camo gear, and they were packing. I was told it was a sight to see. My grandparents lived near a railroad track, and they told the sheriff that when he got to the tracks, he better blink his car headlights twice to signal it was him because they were shooting anything that came over those tracks that they didn't recognize. When the sheriff drove up to the train tracks, he did just that. He blinked his car headlights twice. The sheriff came into the house and sat in the front room that was shot in. Mind you, the day before, one of my mother's siblings had picked up one of the bullet casings, not knowing what it was, and had placed it in the ashtray. And get this, the sheriff was smoking and dumping his ashes in that very same ashtray. He didn't even notice the bullet. He didn't look around. There was no investigation, and there was no arrest for the shooting. Fast forward. Once their case had finally gone to federal court, the owner of the restaurant, Mrs. Mack, was asked if she could identify my uncle, and she said she couldn't point him out because all niggers looked alike. Nonetheless, through all those obstacles, my grandparents won their case, and all citizens, no matter race, could go through the front door of that restaurant and be served. The back doors of Max Cafe were closed forever. Catch us next week for another edition of Unsung Heroes of Black History. We salute you, Bobbie and Fletcher Harris. And please be sure to follow Pure Cinnamon on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.